I am going to draw your attention to September 4th of 2024. Were you working at Apalachee that day?
I was.
And was Colt Gray in one of your classes?
He was.
What period was he in?
He was in first period.
And what time is that class? Or generally, what time does first period start?
The bell rang at like 8:15.
Okay. And what time does it end?
Best I recall, like 9:38, somewhere around there.
And on September 4th, I guess, had you seen him in your class before?
I think he had been in class one time prior to that day.
And on September 4th, did he talk to you?
He did.
When did he first talk to you?
Early on in the classroom session, I think around 8:30, he asked to go to the restroom.
Okay. And then after that, did he come and talk to you again?
He did.
And what did he talk to you about?
At this point, we had been talking about missing assignments and different things because he had only been there for 2 days, but he asked whether or not we'd ever had an active shooter drill before.
And what did you tell him?
I told him that we had had one.
Judge, we're going to object to any hearsay.
Response.
Your Honor, doesn't go to the truth of the matter asserted. It goes to sort of present sense impression, what they're discussing at that time, and then what action she took afterwards.
Yeah, I would think this falls into a category of non-hearsay. They're not offering it to prove that they did or didn't have active school shooter trainings in the past. It's just, did he ask the question? So I'm going to overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. And so, kind of getting back to the question, he asked you if there was an active shooter drill, and then your response was what?
Yeah, we actually had one last week, but he wasn't there for the drill.
Okay. And was there any further discussion about that?
At that moment, I did ask him what school he went to because I was concerned, like, why would you, had you worked in, or been in a school that it would have made you nervous about school shooting? And he told me that that he had been at Jefferson High School, middle school, excuse me, in the 8th grade. And I asked him if he knew Elaine Murphy, who's one of the teachers at Jefferson.
Judge, I'm going to, again, object to any hearsay.
And
Ms. Brooks, do you have a response? Or?
I think we'll just move on from what she said back to him and go on to the next topic.
All right, so I'll sustain the objections to his last remarks. Go ahead.
Okay. So after y'all had the discussion, did he go back and sit down?
He did.
Okay. And this time, I'm going to publish a clip from State's Exhibit 16. It's been previously introduced into evidence, and the clip is from 38 minutes and 23 seconds to 39 minutes and 12 seconds. I'm going to pause it briefly. Can you kind of tell the jury, just so they can make sure they see where you are and then also where Colt Gray is?
Sure. So over to this side over here, where you see the gold and white striped bulletin board, that's where my desk is. And
is that all the way on the left of the screen?
Yes. And then he is to the right of my desk. I don't know on the corner I can show you. So I'm here, and Colt is here, and this is where he was sitting.
Okay.
And this was Alex Johnson, and this was Tyler Graham.
It may facilitate things for these fisheye views to kind of refer to like the face of a clock, 9 o'clock, or just.
That is a good idea, Your Honor. And as far as the exit or the entrance to the classroom, the door, is that around 11 o'clock?
It is.
All right, thank you. All right, we can finish playing the clip. Okay. And does that clip show where he asked you about the active shooter drill?
Yes.
Okay. When he asked you that, did that concern you?
I mean, you don't expect to hear that in the classroom. I mean, we hear about school shootings, but you don't think it's going to happen to you. So it was a little bit alarming. And I did send an email to the counselor in regards to that, in regards to my concern.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State Exhibit 32. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what do you recognize that as?
It's the email that I sent to Miss Butler.
Okay. And is it a fair and accurate copy of that email that you sent to Miss Butler on September 4th?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I'd like to introduce into evidence State Exhibit 32.
No objection.
All right, 32 is admitted.
Okay, if we could display that for the jury. Okay, so you indicated that you sent this email to Miss Butler. Can you tell us who Miss Butler is?
She's the counselor that is in charge of his last name. So each counselor has a certain number of letters in the alphabet that they're in charge of. And she was in charge of his last name.
And then you also copied D. Martin. Can you tell me who D. Martin is?
She's our assistant principal, but I'm a CTAE teacher, so she was actually over the CTAE umbrella.
Okay. And what time did you send that email?
The timestamp is 8:46 a.m.
And can you read for the jury what your email said?
The subject said, inquiry from CG that might warrant a few questions. Miss Butler, I had a student who is new to the school. He has missed quite a bit already. He asked this morning if we ever do any active shooter drills. I thought this was an odd question. I told him we did, and we had one recently, but he was absent. I asked if he had a particular concern, and he said he didn't. The student is Colt Gray, and he is in the 9th grade, just FYI.
Thank you. Now, after you sent that email, did Colt come and talk to you again?
Yes.
Okay. And what did he talk to you about this time?
Several times he was asking about missing assignments. The two students that were sitting beside him, Alex Johnson and Tyler Graham, they were actually helping him with assignments. But at some point closer to the time that the bell rang, he asked what our policy was in between restroom transitions as far as going to the restroom.
And what is Apalachee's policy about restroom transitions?
You cannot go to the restroom during transitions.
Okay. And by transitions, you mean between classes?
Yes, ma'am.
So when can you go to the restroom?
You can go in class.
And how do y'all prevent people from going to the restroom during between classes?
We have chains, and so I actually had the restroom duty right outside my classroom. So there's chains, and you just walk out and clip the chain and stand there and make sure that the students don't go in and out of the restroom.
Okay. So at this time, I'm going to show another clip from State's Exhibit 16, which is from 1 hour and 30 minutes and 54 seconds to 1 hour and 31 minutes and 18 seconds. Is that when he asked you about going to the bathroom, or what the bathroom policy is?
He did, and I reached over to grab the bathroom pass. That's what the thing I was reaching for. They have to have a hall pass in order to go to the restroom. Asked him if he needed to go to the restroom, and he said he did not.
When class was over and he was getting ready to leave, did you notice anything about him or his belongings that caused you concern?
Very close to in the class, I noticed that there was like a poster or some kind of project or something that was sticking out of his book bag. And I asked him what his project was about, and he didn't really have much to say about the project, but he did tell me that he would show it to me later if I wanted to see it. And I couldn't tell what the project was, but he had only been there for a couple of days, so I was looking at it kind of odd. It was taller than the book bag, and it had like clothing that was kind of wrapped around it. And we're in September, but there was like a sock cap that appeared to be like stuck on the top, and I thought it was kind of odd.
How did he carry the bag when he left your classroom?
It was very difficult for him to carry. It was like really super heavy. And so when he went to pick it up, you could tell, and I said, "Do you need help with that?" And he seemed a little agitated or a little nervous. And so he just like scurried out of the classroom with his book bag.
Now, as a teacher, as an educator, do you have the authority to search a child's backpack or a student's backpack?
No, I do not.
Okay. And so based on what you observed with his backpack and with the questions that he asked you about the active shooter and about the bathroom, what did you do?
Initially, I went straight out the door and went to the restrooms to put up the chain because the class was in transition, and that's where my restroom duty is. But as I was standing there, I wasn't standing there very long, but I heard a voice that said, "He's got a gun."
And that's just like a voice in your head,
Voice
kind of?
in my head, yeah.
And what did you do when you kind of felt that happen?
I got cold chills from the top of my hair all the way down to the toes of my feet. And I stood there for a minute, and it quickly runs through your mind, like if you make an accusation and you tell somebody's got a gun, they're going to think you're crazy. But as I stood there for just a second, it just got louder. And so I just darted down the hallway and went straight to D. Martin's office.
Okay. And what did you do when you got to D. Martin's office?
I was going to attempt to tell her that I thought that he had a gun, but she was in there with another student, and so the door was closed. So I immediately came out. Mr. Broughton, who was our other AP, he was standing out in the atrium because we're in class transition. And I went up told him that, I really needed to talk to somebody. And he said, "Well, have you already been talking to Dee about this?" And I said, "Yes." And about that time, somebody came on the radio and said that she was releasing that student to the media center. And he said, "Oh, well, she's done. So you go ahead you go ahead and go in there and talk with her." And so that's what I did. So.
And what was that discussion, or what did you tell her?
When I went in, there was another teacher that was coming in behind me. It was Mandy Pugh and two of her students. And Dee was coming out of her office, and she thought we were together regarding another situation. And I told her no, and there was somebody in the office that was next door to hers. And so there was still a student that was in her office, and so we went into Mr. Neely's office, which is the third office. And we went straight back and we're trying to find some place private. But I told her, I said, "I don't know how I know, but, I think he's got a gun."
After that, what did you do?
She asked me at that point if I knew what class he was in, and I said, "No, I don't." But when I went back to my classroom, then I looked up who the classroom teacher was, and it was Catherine Greer.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 33. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what do you recognize that as?
is the email that I sent letting Dee know what classroom he was in.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of that email?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time I would like to introduce into evidence State's Exhibit 33.
No objection.
All right, 33 is submitted.
And we'll go ahead and publish that to the jury. Okay. And again, you indicated that this was to D. Martin. Can you tell us the time that you sent that email?
The time is at 9:52 a.m.
And can you tell us what the email said?
Colt Gray is with Miss Greer during second period. FYI, thanks.
Your second period class, was it a planning period for you, or were you teaching a class?
It was planning period.
Okay. After that email, can you tell us what happened?
So I have other students that share the classroom. They come in, we share the classroom together. And Alex English, which is another teacher, it's his first year teaching. He was teaching audio, video technology, and film. And he came in with his students. And so at some point during the class, I was just really nervous, and I just stood up and kind of addressed the whole class without asking him first. I just was very stern, and what I said was, don't ask me how I know, don't ask me any questions, but do not leave this classroom unless it's an absolute emergency. Because I just felt in every fiber of my being that something was wrong.
At some point, did you become aware that there was shooting going on in the high school?
Yes. At one point, Alex kind of came towards the door, and we kind of stepped out in the hallway, and I told him what I was suspicious of, and he was like, "Oh gosh, that sounds, scary or whatever." And I said, "I don't know how I know, but I just felt like that something was going to happen." And so I came back in the classroom, and shortly thereafter, we saw the lockdown screen, and we went into lockdown.
And eventually, were you able to hear the shooting, or did you just become aware that something had happened?
No, I actually heard the shooting. It's our protocol to go out, like to open up the classroom door to kind of look to see who's in the hallway, if there's any kids in the bathroom. And I did that, and I could hear gunshots to the left, which is down towards the counseling office.
After the shooting had ended, were y'all eventually able to leave your classroom?
Yes,
Okay. And where were y'all evacuated to?
to the football field.
And I'm going to play one more clip for you, which is the clip for when Colt was leaving your classroom. And it is from 1 hour and 39 minutes and 11 seconds to 1 hour and 40 minutes and 14 seconds. And that's, again, from State's Exhibit 16. And just to be clear, did you ever actually see a gun?
No,
Okay. And so you had a feeling that there was a gun, but you never saw one?
no.
Okay. Nothing further.
Ross?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Harris. I have a few questions. If I ask a question that doesn't make sense or you'd like me to clarify, please let me know,
Okay.
and I'll go ahead and take care of that. All right, so you were in class and you observed this backpack that Mr. Gray had, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you said it looked like it was heavy?
When he got ready to leave the classroom is where it appeared to be heavy.
Based on how he was lifting it, is that what you're referring to?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. And at some point after the shooting, you gave a statement to a couple officers from GBI, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to say yes or no for the court reporter,
Oh.
sorry. No, you're fine. Do you remember telling them that you were familiar with guns?
Yes.
And I believe you said that you thought, based on the length of the object that was extending from his backpack, that kind of made you suspicious. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
How was it about the poster board? How far was it extending out of the backpack?
It appeared to be about that far.
So you're holding your hands, and so I have to make a record for the court reporter, like a foot and a half? More?
2.5 foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said there was a hat stuffed down the tube of the poster board. Is that correct?
It appeared to be clothing, and best I recall, it looked like a sock cap.
Like a
That was-
toboggan?
Yes.
So like a winter hat.
Yeah.
And of course, this was September.
Right. And I thought that was odd.
Right. And it wasn't cold that day.
No, it was not.
Okay. All right. Okay, I think that's it. Let me check one other thing. And you said, we saw from where he was sitting in class on the video, he was sitting next to a couple other students. And without telling me what anybody said specifically, your memory is that they were engaging in conversations regarding missing assignments?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have 1 second, Judge? 1 second, I'll make a moment. Ms. Harris, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Based on cross, any redirect?
No, Your Honor. May Ms. Harris be excused?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. State cross next witness.
They call Catherine Greer.
Just so the defense is aware, I'll be in the habit of just excusing witnesses when they ask for someone that you don't want to be excused. Let me know.